So, my life, my life is finally starting to go in the right direction now. That is because yesterday I had my monthly session with the occupational therapist, and I said to her that I was finally ready to get my diagnosis, because before I said I didn't want a diagnosis because it just always made me think that that would be a reason for me to feel worse about myself. And the reason for that was because in my family setting, I knew that no matter what the diagnosis would be, that it wouldn't change too much. And that's not talking about my mom. My mom's a lovely lady. She is the reason why I've managed to get through most of my life, because my life has always been a struggle. Yes, to most outside people, even just based on how I'm stereotyped because of my looks, that my life's easy. But behind closed doors, I've always been a mess ever since I've been a kid. And I was just good at masking everything because I didn't want to. My biggest fear has always been the fear of judgment. And in order not to be judged, I would have to put on a fake persona. So my diagnosis was and is as followed. I have ADHD, which I've always known, but I'm also on the autism spectrum, which I've known for a while, but I think modern society's idea of autism is the deeper levels of autism, such as being nonverbal, which I'm definitely not. But I'm definitely on the spectrum, that's for sure. And it explains a lot of things in my life, like never being able to pick up on social cues, such as if someone liked me. And even in my most recent relationship, even though I've only had 2 in my life, well, romantic relationship, it was one of the reasons why it maybe fell apart. Well, it is one of the reasons why it fell apart, on top of her still being in love with her ex, which that I could do nothing about because it felt like I was in a relationship within a relationship. But I could have shown up a lot better. But there are certain things that my brain just does not do right. And now that I've got the diagnosis, I can at least be able to express the things that I struggle with and try my best to do what I can in other places to make up for that. And one of the diagnoses, because there was 3 parts, you could say, or 3 neurodevelopmental disorders that I have. The third one being PDA. So why did I forget the word now? Pathological demand avoidance. Which is why I'm so stubborn, and I think that is largely linked to autism as well. that's one of my manifestations of my autism, is my PDA, we could say it that way. Because if someone gives me advice, I will do everything I can to do the complete opposite. And I've told my mum this many times. And I think one of the big changes now with the diagnosis is I'm a lot more self-aware than I used to be when I was a kid. Because when I was a kid, being sent to therapists and people to try and figure out what was wrong with me and getting given advice, I was going to do my best to go the complete opposite to what that advice was. So, yeah. At first, there was even like a month ago when I was starting to watch a lot more videos on autism and ADHD, I just thought that I was so scared to get, or I just didn't like the fact that there's something wrong with me, or there are aspects of me outside of my control that have vastly interrupted my life and caused relationship problems, social problems, or challenges. I need to stop using the word problems because problems means that they are completely fixed, where because I always think incredibly negatively about everything, using the word problems instead of challenges is just a further indication of my bias towards the negative frame of thinking about things. So, yeah, I think like one of the biggest themes for me lately has been being more authentic to myself. And now that I have got these diagnoses and I know with which I am working with and will be stuck with for the rest of my life, or not stuck with, but that are an ingrained part of me, I can now start to become unapologetically myself. And I'm already feeling so much better than I have been in the past, because my whole life has just been trying to improve and get rid of things that are to some degree completely outside of my control. And now I can express how I truly am, and being open and honest about my mental health struggles is the starting point. And I know now that I have the knowledge of what I'm working with, I can start to channel all of that and be able to work on certain aspects of it. And I've always thought that many of these things do make the individual with it special, but it's about having the right support system to help channel those unique abilities of my brain into creating something positive. And I'm starting to undergo a huge life rebuild. I've mentioned already in some of my past videos how my whole 20s have felt like I've been living up to outside expectations of myself, which has led me to doing a lot of the work that I've been trying to do with not too much success over the past 10 years. But each of those endeavors helped me to acquire the skills that I need to be able to do what I believe that I'm meant to do, which is to be able to help people like myself that are in the earlier stages of life and aren't quite yet able to understand the challenges that they're facing and how to use their unique abilities to do what they really want to do. That's one of the things with ADHD is, and possibly autism. That's why I want to go and study, so I can learn more in depthly about all of these conditions and just all of the different neurodiverse diagnoses, so that I'm able to help the people that I'll eventually work with to be able to channel their unique abilities into something that has a lot of positive effects on the world. Because many of the great inventions that have helped humankind have essentially come from neurodiverse individuals. Even though at the time, since these different diagnoses were only conceptualized more recently, when we do look back at even many people in academic fields, that many of them are neurodiverse. When I was at school, a lot of the people that I would and just society would classify as weirdos, which I'd always thought of as myself, while trying desperately to fit in with the cool kids, which I was luckily able to do largely thanks to my athletic abilities and athletic gifts. But I always saw myself and associated a lot with the weirdos, even though they're not weirdos, they just have different interests that neurotypical people do not have. And we live in a world designed for the neurotypical, not for the neurodiverse. So, yeah, I think now that I've got the diagnoses, now that I'm also have let go of the hurt and anger from my past relationship, which was not good for me at all in the moment, but was also incredibly necessary for me to be willing to learn more about myself, and like now be able to actually get a formal diagnosis so that I know better and I'm able to better understand what I'm working with. So yeah, it's been a lot, and I've been doing so much in my daily life to be able to get many of these aspects, or not these aspects of myself, under control. These are things I'm essentially going to be living with for the rest of my life, but more in terms of my past traumas with going to, well, I've always been going to do my energy healing, which I kept calling Reiki, but I think it's more energy healing. I just have never asked the lady what she calls her practice. And I've had 3 sessions now of embodied trauma integration, where I've also been realizing how much rage and anguish and sadness that have been dictating my life, on top of obviously all these neurodiverse traits that I have. And on Thursday, I've got my first hypnosis session, which, now that I've got the diagnosis of pathological demand is avoidance, I am starting to doubt a little bit as well, because that's why I always thought hypnosis and suggestion would not work for me, because I'm very resistant to it, clearly. But maybe now that I also have all these diagnoses, that if the hypnosis is able to get through my stubborn mindset, that it will be able to help me a lot, especially in addressing my past traumas, because with all of these neurodiverse traits largely being neurodevelopmental disorders, those all originate from the traumas of my childhood. So yeah, it's been a lot to take in recently. Again, I'm doing so much. I've still been doing my meditation every morning when I wake up and when I go to sleep, on top of my journaling and my reading. Now that I've been almost a week without THC in my system, my sleep cycles are starting to get a lot better. I've been having the most intense dreams. I almost started lucid dreaming the other day, which I'm incredibly scared of. I mean, to a degree, I was actually lucid dreaming, because in my dream, I realized I was in a dream, but then I was so scared of going into sleep paralysis, because now I was aware of being in a dream within a dream, that I tried to kill myself in my dream to see if that would wake me up, which it didn't. But luckily, because my stomach's been in a very bad state the past few days, I've been waking up about 5 times a night, so that helped me wake up from the lucid dream I was almost beginning to have. But I think now I'm having a lot of REM rebound from years of not being able to go into the sleep cycles that a person should have, especially again not having nearly, even if I did go into REM sleep every night, it was not very vivid or it was not very long, and I had the highest sleep score that I ever have. My heart rate variability went down a little bit, which was weird, but yeah, just starting to learn a lot. So just arriving at work now, so gonna say cheers for today's video, but I am very encouraged with how everything's going, and I'm learning a lot about myself, so there's gonna be a lot more videos to follow. Cheers.